That burning, right there, behind your breastbone. You know the one. You finish dinner, good meal, maybe a little wine, and then 30 minutes later, that slow climbing fire starts moving up your chest and into your throat, and you think, again. Most people watching this have been dealing with that feeling for years. Some of you have been on medication for it for years, and you've probably noticed the medication keeps the lid on, but the moment you stop, it all comes right back because the pills don't fix anything. They just turn down the volume. I spent 23 years as a registered nurse in the Pacific Northwest. I've seen what long-term acid suppression does to a body over time. And in the last decade, out here on my homestead in Oregon, I've been studying what the garden offers instead, not as a replacement for your doctor, but as something your doctor probably never had time to mention. Here's what this video is going to do for you. I'm going to walk you through 7 specific plants, each one backed by either clinical evidence or deep ethnopharmacological history, that work on the actual causes of reflux, the damaged lining, the too slow digestion, the valve that won't stay shut. Different mechanisms, different doors into the same problem. Now, before we start, I need to tell you about one herb that most natural remedy articles get completely wrong. They recommend it for reflux. They shouldn't, and I'll show you exactly why later in this video. A lot of you are probably drinking it right now, thinking it's helping. It isn't. One more thing. The 7th herb on this list is one almost nobody talks about for reflux, and it might be sitting in your spice rack right now, completely ignored. Don't skip ahead. It needs context to make sense. Licorice root. I know, most people picture black candy when they hear that name. The flavor's the same. The plant's a different story entirely. Now, there's a very specific form of licorice I want to talk about today. It's called DGL, Deglycyrrhizinated licorice. That long name just means they've removed one particular compound that causes blood pressure problems in some people. What's left is the good stuff. Think of your esophagus as a hallway with a painted wall. Acid reflux is like someone scraping that paint off, day after day. Eventually, you're down to raw brick, raw, inflamed tissue that hurts every time something acidic passes through. What DGL does is act like a primer coat. It tells the cells of your stomach lining to produce more of their own protective mucus. Thicker, stickier, more resistant. That mucus is your wall's paint. Licorice helps you repaint it from the inside. But here's the part that genuinely stopped me the first time I read it. Licorice doesn't just protect the wall. It recruits your gut bacteria to help rebuild it. Recent studies found that licorice flavonoids actually shift your intestinal microbiome, increasing the production of short-chain fatty acids, which then trigger a signaling cascade that regenerates damaged mucosal cells. A root that talks to your bacteria to rebuild your gut lining. The way the creator designed these plants never stops impressing me. A randomized controlled trial in India, 200 participants 30 days, tested a flavonoid-rich DGL extract called GutGuard. 75 milligrams, twice a day. Significant improvement in upper digestive symptoms compared to placebo. Now, that trial focused on functional dyspepsia, which overlaps considerably with GERD, but the results are encouraging, and the mechanism is the same. That's real evidence, folks, not just grandmother's cupboard. Safety note: if you have high blood pressure, heart trouble, or you're on diuretics or digoxin, please talk to your doctor first before using licorice root in any form, including DGL. That's not me being overly cautious. That's me being your nurse. All right, here's how I use it. DGL comes in chewable tablets, and that chewing matters. Saliva starts the process. I take 2 chewable tablets. Most DGL products run 75 to 150 milligrams per tablet, about 20 minutes before a meal. The timing matters. You want that mucus layer primed before the acid arrives, not after you're already on fire. Check your specific product's label for dosing guidance. Preparations vary. And always leave at least a couple of hours before taking any other medications. That protective gel it forms can slow down absorption of other things, a trade-off worth knowing about. My grandmother grew marshmallow in her border garden, not for cooking. She'd pull a root in the fall, dry it by the wood stove, and brew it into a tea whenever anyone in the family had a sore stomach. Or was it her sister who did that? Well, no matter. The root was always there, and now I know exactly why it worked. Marshmallow root, Althea officinalis, not the white puffed candy, is packed with something called mucilaginous polysaccharides. Slimy. I mean that in the best possible way. When you dissolve marshmallow root in water and swallow it, it doesn't digest right away. Instead, it forms a thick, slippery gel that lines everything it touches: your esophagus, your stomach lining, your whole upper GI tract. It's like coating the inside of a burned pipe with a cool, protective resin. Beyond that physical coating, marshmallow's flavonoids have been shown in animal studies to actually lower two of the main chemical messengers of gut inflammation, TNF-alpha and interleukin-6. Those are the body's call the fire brigade signals. Marshmallow root helps quiet that alarm before it gets out of hand. There's a lesser-known piece to this, too. Some evidence suggests marshmallow root stimulates nitric oxide production in your stomach lining, and nitric oxide is what keeps blood flowing to that tissue, keeping it nourished and able to repair itself. A humble root doing some sophisticated work. I use marshmallow as a cold infusion. That's the key word here, cold. Hot water can actually degrade some of the mucilage. 1 heaping tablespoon of dried root in about 2 cups of cold water. Stir it. Leave it overnight, 8 hours minimum. By morning, the water has thickened slightly. That's the mucilage. That's the medicine. Strain it through a fine mesh. Drink half a cup 20 to 30 minutes before meals, up to 3 times a day. And please, take any other medications at least an hour apart. That coating effect works both ways. Slippery elm has been in use on this continent for a long, long time. Long before any pharmacy existed within 500 miles of Oregon. The Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe, many of the Great Lakes peoples, they used the inner bark of this tree for almost everything that needed soothing. Throats, wounds, stomachs. The inner bark, Ulmus rubra, is where the magic lives. When you powder it and add water, it becomes slippery, hence the name. That slip is mucilage, the same basic mechanism we saw in marshmallow. But slippery elm has a slightly different texture, denser, more adhesive. That adhesion is the point. It doesn't just coat the stomach, it clings to the esophageal lining specifically. Think of it as a medical-grade bandage for irritated tissue that acid has been abrading over months or years. The bark physically sits between your damaged tissue and the next wave of acid. Protective, simple. A multi-center study using a formula that included slippery elm reported 60 to 80% reductions in GERD symptoms, and some patients were able to step down from their proton pump inhibitors under medical supervision. Now, the formula included other herbs, so I won't overstate slippery elm's individual role, but this tree earns its place on this list. Here's the part I find remarkable. This same tree bark, the same compounds, was used topically by Native American healers on burns and skin ulcers. The tannins and antimicrobials in elm work both on skin and on gut lining. One plant, 2 entirely different tissues. Same healing principle. The creator had a plan there. Slippery elm is most convenient as a powder. I keep it in a small glass jar on my kitchen shelf, right next to my oats, 1 to 2 teaspoons stirred into a cup of warm, not boiling, water, or mix it into applesauce or a small bowl of oatmeal. The porridge method is actually traditional. I like it that way on foggy Oregon mornings. Take it between meals, 3 times a day if needed, and drink a full glass of water with it. That fiber swells, and you want it moving freely through the system, not sitting in a clump. Ginger is the one on this list that almost everyone already has in their kitchen, and most people use it for nausea, which makes complete sense. But the reason it helps GERD goes deeper than most people realize, and it works through a completely different door than the other herbs we've discussed. The others we've looked at, licorice, marshmallow, slippery elm, they all build the wall. Ginger moves the traffic. See, one of the root causes of acid reflux isn't just that you produce too much acid. It's that your stomach is taking too long to empty. Food and acid sit there. The stomach distends, pressure builds, and some of that acidic slurry gets pushed back up into the esophagus like water backing up in a slow drain. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogalls. These active molecules talk directly to the receptors in your stomach wall, specifically the M3 muscarinic receptors, and tell them to contract more efficiently. Your stomach empties faster, less back pressure, less reflux. Ginger also blocks 5-HT3 receptors, the ones involved in nausea, and dials down two major inflammation alarm signals in the gut, NF-κB and P38-MAPK. That's a lot of fire exits it's covering: prokinetic, anti-nausea, anti-inflammatory, potent. A 2022 randomized trial published in Curis tested 1,080 milligrams of ginger extract per day for 4 weeks in GERD patients. Statistically significant improvements in fullness, bloating, and reflux pain. That's a well-documented herb doing documented work. Caution note: ginger has mild blood-thinning effects. If you're on warfarin or any anticoagulant, have a conversation with your prescribing doctor first. And if you have gallstones, go easy. Ginger stimulates bile flow, which might not play nicely with your situation. Fresh ginger tea is the simplest and most effective delivery method. I make it almost every morning, just out of habit at this point. About an inch of fresh root, peeled and thinly sliced, into a mug. Pour hot water over it, not boiling. Around 170 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 77 to 82 degrees Celsius for my friends across the Atlantic. Steep it for 10 minutes with a small plate over the top to trap the volatile compounds. Strain and drink it 30 minutes before your largest meal. If you're using a supplement, look for a standardized extract, something around 250 to 500 milligrams of gingerols per dose. Don't exceed 1 gram per day without medical supervision. Chamomile. There's something almost holy about how simple this little flower is. I have a whole patch of it in my east-facing bed. Comes up every year without any fuss. Smells like apple and honey in the morning dew. A blessing from the soil, truly. Most people know chamomile as a bedtime tea, a relaxant. What most people don't know is that it works on the gut by a very specific mechanism that makes it genuinely useful for GERD, particularly for people whose reflux is triggered or worsened by stress and anxiety, which, in my nursing experience, is a lot of people. The key compounds are epigenin and bisabolol. Together, they calm the smooth muscle of the GI tract, not by making it lazy, but by reducing the spasms and erratic contractions that contribute to transient lower esophageal sphincter relaxations. That's when your valve briefly opens for no good reason and lets acid through. Chamomile helps that valve keep its composure. Beyond the gut, chamomile's flavonoids interact with the body's stress response system, modulating GABA and serotonin signaling in the nervous system. That's why it relaxes you. And since stress is one of the leading triggers for acid production and reflux episodes, addressing the stress addresses the reflux indirectly. 2 birds, 1 flower. Now, I want to be responsible here and mention something that surprises most people. Chamomile contains natural coumarins, which have mild blood-thinning properties. If you're on warfarin or any anticoagulant medication, your chamomile habit could amplify that effect and raise your INR. Tell your doctor you're drinking it regularly. This is not a reason to avoid chamomile, it's just a reason to be transparent with your prescriber. And one more, chamomile is a member of the daisy family, Asteraceae. If you're allergic to ragweed, chrysanthemums, or daisies, there's a real possibility of cross-reaction. Try a small amount first and pay attention to your body. Chamomile is wonderfully straightforward, and I always use the whole dried flowers, not just bags. The quality difference is something you can smell. 1 heaping tablespoon of dried chamomile flowers into your infuser. Pour 8 ounces, that's about 240 milliliters, of hot water just under boiling. Cover the mug and steep for 5 full minutes. Covering it keeps those volatile healing oils from escaping with the steam. Drink it 20 to 30 minutes after dinner, especially on evenings when you feel tight or stressed. 1 to 2 cups daily is a reasonable, gentle dose. If you're pregnant, keep it to 1 cup occasionally. The evidence on heavy chamomile use in pregnancy isn't fully settled. Aloe vera. I know some of you have a plant on your windowsill. I have 3. Most people know it for burns, sunburns, kitchen burns, that little encounter with the oven rack we all have at least twice a year. The gel on the skin is cold and immediately calming. Now imagine that same cooling, soothing chemistry happening inside your esophagus and stomach. That's essentially what aloe vera gel does when you drink it. And unlike some of the others on this list, we actually have a head-to-head clinical trial to point to. A randomized controlled trial. 79 subjects, 4 weeks, compared aloe vera syrup at 10 milliliters a day to omeprazole and ranitidine. The aloe group showed comparable reduction across 8 assessed GERD symptoms: heartburn, food regurgitation, flatulence, belching, nausea, and more. No adverse events required anyone to withdraw. That's a plant going toe-to-toe with 2 pharmaceuticals. I want to be careful not to overstate it. This was a pilot trial, and larger studies are needed, but it's genuine. Mechanically, aloe gel works on at least 3 levels. It reduces gastric acid output. It raises the levels of prostaglandin E2, a compound your stomach lining uses to protect itself. And it dials down IL-8 and TNF-alpha, 2 of the loudest inflammation messengers in your gut. And here's the hidden gem. Research has found that aloe vera gel, not just for reflux, but in clinical trials for ulcerative colitis, can produce meaningful reductions in disease activity in the inflamed bowel. The systemic anti-inflammatory effect of this plant goes beyond the esophagus. If you're someone dealing with both reflux and lower GI inflammation, aloe may be doing double duty. One very important safety note: there are 2 parts of an aloe vera leaf. The clear inner gel, that's what we want, safe, soothing. The outer leaf contains something called aloin, a yellowish latex that is a potent laxative and can cause significant fluid and potassium loss. When you buy aloe vera juice or gel for internal use, look specifically for inner leaf, decolorized, or aloin-free on the label. The 2 parts of this plant are not interchangeable. Also, aloe can lower blood sugar levels and has mild diuretic effects. Diabetics and anyone on diuretics or heart medication like digoxin, please loop in your doctor before making aloe part of your daily routine. Not optional on this one. I use a commercially prepared inner leaf aloe vera juice, not the raw plant for internal use. The decolorized aloin removed products are standardized for this purpose. The clinical trial used 10 milliliters, that's roughly 2 teaspoons, once a day, stirred into a small glass of water or cool apple juice. I take mine in the morning, 15 to 20 minutes before breakfast. Start there and see how your body responds before adding a second daily dose. Give it at least 4 weeks of consistent use before you judge its effect. This isn't a plant that works dramatically on day 1. It's a restorer, slow, steady, persistent, like a good garden. Fennel is the one on this list that most people already own and never think about for reflux. It sits in the spice rack, maybe makes its way into sausage, maybe a salad. But in Mediterranean and Persian folk medicine, fennel seed after meals is as automatic as saying grace. Fennel works as a carminative, a fancy word for a plant that reduces gas and spasm in the GI tract. The essential oils in fennel seed, particularly trans and ethol, relax the smooth muscle of the intestinal wall. Less tension, less trapped gas, less upward pressure on that lower esophageal sphincter. Gas pressure below a leaky valve is a significant driver of reflux. Every time you belch, there's a chance acid rides that wave back up. Fennel seed reduces the pressure that causes those belches in the first place. Fennel also has documented antispasmodic effects. It's been used in several small trials for infant colic, irritable bowel, and upper GI discomfort. The evidence isn't as robust as ginger's, but it's solid traditional use backed by plausible mechanism. Evidence is suggestive and based on long-standing ethnopharmacological use. It's the gentlest herb on this list. No blood pressure warnings, no drug interactions at culinary doses, safe in pregnancy at normal food amounts, a blessing from the garden in its simplicity. This one is about as easy as it gets. Half a teaspoon of whole fennel seeds, not ground, chewed slowly after meals, or made into a quick tea. For the tea, 1 teaspoon of lightly crushed seeds, Use the back of a spoon, just enough to crack them open, into 8 ounces of just boiled water. Steep 5 to 10 minutes, strain, and drink after your meal. I keep a small bowl of fennel seeds on the dinner table the way my grandmother kept a salt cellar. Natural, automatic, a meal ender with a purpose. So, 7 plants, 7 different doors into the same problem. DGL licorice rebuilds the wall. Marshmallow root and slippery elm coat it. Ginger moves the traffic through faster. Chamomile steadies the nervous system and quiets the spasms. Aloe vera cools the inflammation and supports the lining directly. And fennel seed takes the pressure off the valve before it has a chance to leak. None of these are cures. I want to be honest with you about that. What they are is support, genuine, biochemically grounded, traditionally tested support for a system that's under stress. If you're dealing with severe or persistent GERD, please don't swap your gastroenterologist for a teapot. These plants work best alongside good medical care, not instead of it. What I found, after years of nursing and years of gardening, is that the best outcomes come from people who do both. They manage the crisis with their doctor, and they build the foundation with their garden. Now, I want to hear from you. I spend time reading every comment on this channel, and I have a specific question I want you to think about before you answer it. Ginger works as a prokinetic. It speeds up gastric emptying. Chamomile works as a smooth muscle relaxant. It reduces transient LES relaxations. These 2 herbs work through opposite mechanisms, but both help reflux. Have you ever noticed that one of them works better for you at certain times of day or after certain types of meals? And if so, do you think that tells us something about which type of reflux you're predominantly dealing with? That's the kind of observation that could start a genuinely useful conversation down in the comments. I mean it. If this video helped you or someone you love, please subscribe. I put a lot of care into this channel, and every subscriber tells me to keep going. God bless you and your garden, folks. May the Lord keep you healthy, and may you always know what's growing just outside your door. Take care of yourselves.